This segment is brought to you by Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Folse, and if you recall, months ago, I had attorney Matt Ory on our program to talk about Kyren Lacy's involvement or non-involvement in a wreck that took place, which took the life of a very popular man, Mr. Hall, and it was well documented. It went national. It was talked about. It was written about. It was blogged about. It was all over the nation. So I did tell Mr. Ory back then, and I also tell everyone involved in this, whether you're an attorney or whether you're part of the investigation, you're always welcome to tell your story on HTV. So I told Mr. Ory, if you have anything to add to the story at any point, please give me a holler and we'll get you on. So joining me now is Matt Ory, attorney, and good to see you, Matt. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Did you compile anything new?
I've got everything. I've got every piece of evidence I have viewed. I've examined every piece of evidence, which includes all surveillance, all body cam footage, and most importantly, the investigative report that was generated and manufactured by the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office, according to the data that they obtained.
In that report, which is independent of you, you know, when I was going through it and looking at some of these things, in it, I think you'll probably go over where they were, because I see you brought a board where you're going to depict where all of them were during the incident, and you have all that information to sort of explain where everyone was at, how fast they were going, what they were doing, all of that.
I do. I've got it all here.
Okay. Is most of this reports, or do you have actual video?
Got the entirety of the district attorney's findings, their findings after their own investigation. That's what we're here today to present. We're going to compare and contrast those findings with the findings of state police, because there's a ton of confusion. People seem to believe that somehow he hit someone in this accident, or possibly even shot through two cars and there was this explosion behind him. I've heard every version possible, but we can show you the version right now.
Okay. Sort of describe the video for our audience, what you've seen in the video.
Yeah, so what you'll see is in the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way south to Thibodaux, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacy come to a stop.
So as we've seen the video, it looks like the impact happens, and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did, in fact, pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how this story was ever painted. Never.
Any part of the district attorney's investigation that talked about Mr. Lacy getting back, I guess we call it, what do you call it, correcting or getting in your proper lane?
Sure, he was back in his proper lane according to their data. This isn't my expert. This is the investigation of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. So I'm here simply comparing and contrasting the District Attorney's Office with state police in this matter, their investigations. And in that investigation, it shows that he was back in his correct lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Before this incident occurred, he was back in his lane.
What is the legal law state about where you should be behind, or I want to say I thought it was 100 feet. Is that correct?
It is correct. You know, take out the fact here that it's a no passing zone. If it weren't at this time, it's 100 feet. What we know now is he was 3 times legally what he needed to be back in his lane of traffic.
Where was everybody involved in this? And I see you brought something that you could visibly show everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I stated, if we're looking at this, and of course this isn't to scale, and I can't draw, but what you see here is vehicle 3. That is Mr. Hall's vehicle. This is another vehicle between Mr. Lacy and Mr. Hall.
Okay.
This is the gold truck that's referenced in the report. This is heading north. So this is the lead vehicle heading north. And the vehicle that actually collided with Mr. Hall's vehicle, that would be vehicle 2. All right? So through the course of this now, we start investigating and dissecting everything we possibly can. Mm-hmm. When we do that, we start with vehicle 2, right? So what do I know now about vehicle 2? Vehicle 2 was tailgating, all right? According to the data, again, of the district attorney's office, not me, according to their data, tailgating at 49.6 miles an hour, 0.5 seconds behind the gold truck, 1.5 seconds before the crash. So again, if that did make sense, she is following 0.5 seconds behind this vehicle, 0.5 seconds behind that vehicle, 1.5 seconds before the crash at over 49 miles an hour. 0.5. That's what happens when you tailgate. Now, interestingly enough, this vehicle was actually, when this woman was in the ambulance, they issued her a ticket, all right? You know for what? Take a wild guess. Following too close. They even told her it's in your personal belongings. Fast forward. Another trooper comes and is looking for that particular ticket. And that ticket, they told her, something may happen to the ticket, don't worry about it. Sure enough, something happened to that ticket down the road, right? The ticket now needs to fit a better narrative. And that ticket now says, crossing left of center. Why? Why? The black box is telling me. The data from the district attorney's office tells me you're traveling 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour, 1.5 seconds before the accident. That's not tailgating? Now, what we're looking at, this isn't speculation. Through this, we hear there's story after story. Actually, vehicle 2's story got bigger and bigger and bigger until we now have their data, right? So when we get our hands on it, I'm looking at the data from that particular vehicle. That data in that vehicle shows me 5 seconds previous to this crash. 5. I'm looking at it, and you're going to show it. 5 seconds previous to this crash, she maintained a speed of 49.6 miles an hour, never activating the EBS system until 0.5 seconds before the crash. Why is that important? Because if your story, which we'll get into, keeps getting bigger and bigger, and you had all this time to see the gold truck, in her words, stomp on their brakes, slam on their brakes, come to a stop, veer off the road. I see another vehicle approaching. I see the Charger approaching. Well, my question to you now becomes, how did you see that vehicle approaching, or him stop, or him slam on his brakes, yet your data says you never touched your brake prior to 0.5 seconds before that crash? I'm looking right now, so are you, at the last 5 seconds according to her. Her car's black box, not mine, not my expert. That's her car. So if you're going to tell me a 5 to 10 second elaborate story, it needs to make sense. And when you have the data, not only doesn't it add up, it's not possible. Notice on there, Martin, it says 75 degrees, right? You turn 75 degrees to the left all of a sudden. That's what happens when you tailgate. Now, interestingly enough, this vehicle was actually, when this woman was in the ambulance, they issued her a ticket, all right? You know for what? Take a wild guess. Following too close. Data from the district attorney's office tells me you're traveling 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour, 1.5 seconds before the accident. That's not tailgating? That's not following too close. Of course it is. Ticket was taken away.
I'm looking at the data, and I'm learning some new things here. So the 75, the steering input at 75 to the left.
That's correct.
Any indicate that, I would guess 75 on a scale of 100, that's a pretty hard turn to the left.
It's a very hard turn to the left. The gold truck, the lead vehicle in oncoming traffic, who, by the way, is probably one of the two most important witnesses in this entire case. We know now that 2.99 seconds prior to him pulling off the road, he was traveling 28 miles an hour. 28 miles an hour. Now, you're going to hear his statement in a little while, and it's going to all make sense. But let's be very clear right now for the intent and purposes of what we're doing. There are two vehicles that we're talking about right now that are traveling north. The second vehicle in oncoming traffic, which is vehicle 2, their data says she is tailgating. She is 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour. 1.5 seconds before the crash. And you saw her data, 50.3 to 49.6.
Yeah, so she stayed at 49.6 until 0.5 seconds, and then...
There's a variation of less than a mile per hour.
Yeah.
It's 0.7, I believe.
Right. Did she give any police report or anything?
Oh, absolutely. So...
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we will. This particular individual, and for purposes of this report, I'd like you, Martin, this is page 9, if you could follow along to make sure I'm not misquoting a single thing.
All right.
All right, I'm looking at the investigative report of the district attorney's office. Mm-hmm. And then here you can see this is their investigator looking at vehicle 2 statements, and now he's analyzing. He says, upon reviewing the body cam video of the trooper from the scene, the following statement was made by, we'll call her vehicle 2, right? Mm-hmm. I just know the truck was stomping on brakes. The other was trying to pass the other car. I was trying to dodge by not hitting him, by coming around. When the trooper asked how fast she was going, she replied the speed limit. He next says, I reviewed the recorded interview and the written statement from vehicle 2 while she was in the hospital on January 3rd, 2025. Below is a synopsis of that interview. And the very first, it says, all I can see is that a car is coming this way and the car in front of me. Right before the crash. I'm looking at the pickup truck in front of me. That's all they see for the moment. I'm eating my Funyuns. I got in the middle of my lap and I'm driving. I'm listening to my music. All of a sudden, I see the car get in the other person's lane. The truck, in quotes, steps on his brakes. First, so it slows down, but then he does it again, and this time it's really hard. That's when you can see on the other side the car is trying to get back over. But before he can get over, the truck stops in the middle, like on the brakes, hard. There's another car that runs damn near into the pole. It's either I run into him or I try to get out the way, so I'm trying to get to the dollar store parking lot. Then the other car just comes and slams into me. The trooper asked vehicle 2, whenever you're looking forward, or the cars in front of you, they swerve off to the right before you make your left, or are you looking at a green Charger coming at you? Or, in end of quotes. Vehicle 2 responded with, the green Charger came, and then the car behind me, behind them, the truck, the van, whatever. The trooper does not ask any further follow-up questions to get a better understanding of what she was saying for this answer. Now remember, I'm reading what the investigator's saying. Mm-hmm. When vehicle 2 states the truck stops in the middle of the road like on the brakes hard, this statement indicates that the gold truck stopped in the middle of the lane and not, in quotes, swerving off to the right. This would also show that vehicle 2 would have steered to the left to avoid contact with the gold truck and not Kyren Lacy. During this interview with the trooper, vehicle 2 made several statements that do not match the submitted report or written statement. Instead of questioning vehicle 2 for more details, the trooper attempted to recap what she was saying, which seems to contradict her statements. While doing this, the trooper is the first to talk about the gold truck swerving off to the right. Then when it came to obtaining the written statement, the trooper tells vehicle 2 what to document on the statement as she is writing.
I have 2 questions here. One, I'd like to know more about the statement that she made to the trooper. The other one would be, do we have any data on the gold truck?
2.99 seconds before the gold truck eases off to the road.
Okay.
He's off of the road.
Right.
He's traveling at 28 miles an hour.
Right.
That all is in this report.
Yeah, that's my question.
You watch someone slam on their brakes. You watch them stop. You watched a car chart coming at you in your lane of traffic, but you never thought to just tap the brakes? Really? No. Data is accurate. The black box is accurate that says that you never touched your brakes. You never touch your brakes in the last 5 seconds until 0.5 seconds before the impact. That's their data. It's not mine.
Proceed. What did you find out after that?
So what I was curious about here, most importantly to me, in terms of the oncoming traffic, right? So I'm looking at that gold truck. I want to know what they said, when they said it, what were the circumstances, how did this come about? And this is where it really starts tying together, right? The gold truck, they end up getting a statement from this individual. There's two of them. The very first one, what I noticed on the body cam was that the conversation was going on for 4 minutes and approximately 30 seconds prior to the body cam being activated. And of course, when the body cam's activated, I don't know what you said those previous 4.5 minutes, they end up at this individual's house to obtain a statement. I want to play right now how that statement started.
Okay. Let's roll that in.
All right, sir. So, look, don't worry about filling any of this top information, like your name, address. Don't worry about any of that. Just right here, if you could, I'll just have you write exactly what you saw. Just make sure to include, where you were.
I don't even know what the name of that highway.
It's Highway 20. Highway 20. That you just.
All right, me and my wife gonna figure out right quick.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what happened. That's how she called that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
So, but the charger was coming right at you, correct? And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this charger right now. So just include that in the statement, and I'll read it over, and then I'll be out of here.
In that video, you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
But then you hear Gold Truck, the witness who's the Gold Truck, what he says. And he says verbatim.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what happened. That's how she called that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
I didn't skid marked or nothing because I wasn't even going that fast. That lady in the back of me, she didn't see what's happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was going to run into the back of me, and she pulled into the other side. But there's a bigger problem. I then obtained the actual written statement.
And this is from the Gold Truck.
This is the Gold Truck. Now, after the statement we just went through, notice, I've obviously redacted names, addresses, and the cell phone number in fairness to the individual who is Gold Truck number one in oncoming traffic. See, the problem with that statement is it is in direct contravention to what was said minutes earlier. It's not written by him, and where it says signed, it's not signed. It's refused. But you see, when I have a witness who is the most critical, and he's telling you, I wasn't traveling fast. We know now that he wasn't. The data shows 2.99 seconds before that he was traveling 28 miles an hour. The data shows that. Now he corroborates that. And he goes on to say, I didn't even make a skid mark. that woman behind me, she caused that accident. And you give me this statement that is refused? I got a problem. I got a problem with that, a big one. What he's saying is she had to avoid hitting him. Mm-hmm. He specifically stated she caused that accident, but I've got an affidavit for arrest warrant right here. Nowhere in here does it say anything that you guys just saw on body cam. To the contrary, about that vehicle, it says the gold truck took evasive action by emergency braking and driving off the roadway to avoid a head-on crash. But you just heard he said, I wasn't even going fast. I didn't even skid mark. So what emergency braking are we referring to here? And what the hell was the point of this report? That is complete opposite. I would expect that you'll show this to where they can read what was said versus what was written just minutes earlier.
Just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, like, you know, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing, but I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what happened. That's how she caused that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's how that is.
So, but the charger was coming right at you, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this charger right now. So just include that in the statement, and I'll read it over, and then I'll be out of here. Okay.
By the way, the body cam wasn't on for this statement. It was turned off before obtaining this statement. And this is what we get back in a file. This. Remember, Kyren passed. I'll just put X's. This is where Kyren passed, right? He comes here, he passes. He gets back in his lane. Don't you know that one of these witnesses that's in this package actually says in his statement that the charger passed through the vehicle of Mr. Hall and the gold truck and vehicle 2, and then they collided. I can't make this up. This is what people just don't get to see. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not saying this intentional. I'm saying people commit to a story and they don't back down. You saw it here, but I'm telling you, you guys saw a video. You just saw a statement where somebody tells them what to say. They tell them that's not what happened. They still give me the statement. And now I got another individual who we won't harp into here because it's so uncredible, right? That one individual, one of the 4 individuals here, they say that they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour when Kyren passed him. He did. There's no disputing that. No one ever did, but he was back in his lane of travel. 92.3 yards back in, 72.6 at the time of impact. When they collide, he is 72.6. Before they collide, he is almost a football field away back in his lane. That's not disputed. What you can see is another car come to a stop, and then Kyren Lacy come to a stop. But you know what's really interesting to me as well is that there was another passenger in Kyren Lacy's car. They knew this. They have video footage of this individual getting out of the car. Why didn't you ascertain his identity? Why would you not want to hear the person with one of the best views of this incident? Why would you make a call? Why would you simply not bring him in for questioning?
And I'm sure you talked to him after?
Of course I talked to him after. It's exactly what they said. Yeah. It's exactly what they said. Mm-hmm. They actually thought at one point in time that she collided with the gold truck. That's the very first thing they told me, that they thought that this vehicle, vehicle 2, was trying to get around the 2, as in slide between them, as in, uh-oh. You know, so you can see why. This is just amazing now, what I know, and there's so much more. We've spent hours and hours and hours scouring, but I don't know how else to tell anybody else that this is not mine. I didn't generate this. I didn't manipulate this. I didn't alter it. I didn't manufacture it. I received it from the district attorney's office. I then did my job, and I compare it to the report and the investigation of state police, and it is drastic. It's drastic. The very last line of the report from the district attorney's office says The evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known that his actions were the cause of the crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. And what we know is we never disputed ever that he passed those vehicles. They were in a row, 4 vehicles in a row. We know they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour. He passed them. It was a no passing zone, but he got back in 92.3 yards. He was back in his lane of travel. He was 72 yards behind at the time of impact. We know that now. He was actually the second car to pull up behind, not even the first. At no point in time did he have to slam his brakes. He wasn't even close to the second car. He just eased in. He eased in. He went straight from there to the facility in Trevor for his football practice. But he had no idea he caused this accident because he didn't think he caused the accident. He didn't cause the accident.
When did you get knowledge of it? When did you first get on the case itself? When were you notified?
Weeks after. Remember, from the time of this investigation to when a warrant was executed, there were weeks apart, right? And then I get involved after that. By the time I get involved, he's already charged with this. So that's a circumstance that I inherit.
Right.
But, you know, you hear things, you keep your eyes open, you keep your ears open, and you listen, and something wasn't passing the litmus test here. So, you know, when you look back on this and you see actual data, it's not mine, that shows these types of things, and you go as far as a witness saying he split between 2 vehicles and then there was this spontaneous combustion, it truly should open some eyes, right? That is not even close to what happened.
As you started your discussion with Kyren Lacy, and look, once again, we'll talk about Mr. Hall later in the program because we're not avoiding talking about a veteran, but I want to stay on point here just for a second. When you're talking to Kyren Lacy and he's saying, Matt, I wasn't involved in this, what was his mindset like at the time?
It's horrible. Look, man, you got a young kid that's getting assassinated on public media, social media. He begged me to help him. I was already helping, but it was a consistent deal, obviously, meaning far after representation, begging me to help him. And you move as fast as you can with what you have, right? But there was a defining point for me in this whole situation that I knew he wasn't joking. And he referenced things in football fields. And I know it's easy to look back and say, oh, I bet he never said that. He's deceased now. BS. I'm telling you now what he told me. He said I was a football field. A football field is how he compared things, right? So he's saying when he got back in his lane of traffic, I know I was a football or even a little over a football field over by the time I'm back in my lane. And when I told him that they had video surveillance of this whole thing, it was like he was relieved for a second. Because I think in his mind, he thought that, which most did, most people that I talk to think that he actually hit the vehicle or he barely got past him and then they collided. That was the narrative that I heard the most. So in his mind, at least he's looking at this going, okay, somebody can show I was actually watched this accident. I saw it. And he told me there was a car between them. Hell, after I read everything prior to meeting with him and the things that I heard, I'm questioning what's going on here. Did he just get through and take off like they suggested? You and I read reports earlier. We're looking at old news reports where they say he actually collided with a vehicle.
They did.
They actually said he fled a scene. They actually said he came back to the scene. Do you know how preposterous that is? None of that's true. And he sure as hell never split the difference and barely got through, and then there was some big explosion. That's not what happened. Kyren Lacy passed 4 vehicles. There's no question, in a row. Nobody ever disputed that. But it's now undisputed that he got back in 92.3 yards. Now, interestingly enough, the report indicates that at 120.4 yards, he was already entering back into the lane, right? The reason they reference that is they say in this report, the district attorney's office, their investigation yielded that at that time, Kyren and vehicle number 2, all right? 1.5 seconds before the accident or 120.4 yards apart.
So it said 120.4 yards, not feet.
All this is yards.
Yards.
This is not feet.
It's a big difference.
The
Yeah.
only footage we have discussed, you and I today, is what's legally required when you pass a vehicle.
100 feet.
You have to be back in your lane of traffic 100 feet. He was over 300 feet. I'll be the first to admit that particular law does not say when you're in a no passing zone. Mm-hmm. Be clear. He passed 4 vehicles in a no passing zone. Mm-hmm. Never been disputed. Not once. Right. Did I ever dispute that or anybody else? But the big narrative spun was, and this is very important, that he was actively passing at the time of this accident. That is extremely important. We know now that is 100% false. In the conclusion of the district attorney's report,
What page you on? I'm going to follow.
This is on page 12.
Yeah, let me get to 12 here. Okay, go ahead.
They state in here that they gave the impression that Kyren Lacy was actively passing vehicles when the crash occurred, which is incorrect. He did pass 4 vehicles, but was back in the southbound lane before the crash occurred. And now we know, according to this data, that was 72.6 yards, as it's stated in this report.
When I think at one point while we were talking, you indicated to me that Kyren was very close to being vindicated on this matter. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I had a very good idea of enough started adding up to me to know that there were holes all over this thing, right? So it's the policy of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office that all homicides go to a grand jury. We were nearing that grand jury, right? Where all of this was coming out. Everything I'm telling you now is going to be presented to a grand jury in a fair, neutral, and impartial manner. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, this never survives a grand jury. Never, never, ever survives a grand jury. We were 48 hours from that, from this report getting to the grand jury, right? So it is the process. They moved it as quickly as they could. And by that, I just mean, it was done just like, which is the right thing to do, like every other case. It was done fair and square where, look, we have a homicide. We have to go through this process. The only promise that Ms. Russell made to myself and civil counsel for Mr. Hall was that she would complete the investigation and immediately set it for grand jury out of fairness to both. And she did that. She did exactly what she promised she would do. Insofar as an investigation, we had no idea what a result would be on her end. No clue. Mm-hmm. We just knew it was being done. They didn't sit on it for, some amount of time. They worked it thoroughly, but in the time manner that they could. And they set it for grand jury just like they promised. So we couldn't have asked for more from a office who has always been and will always be just extremely fair, right? I mean, that's all you can ask for. There's no fault on their part. There's certainly no fault whatsoever on the part of Mr. Hall. That's a wonderful family. Believe me, it's not easy for me to get up here right now. There's a man who passed away other than Kyren Lacy, and his life was just as important as Kyren Lacy.
And that was one thing I regretted, and I would tell the family that I didn't spend enough time talking about Mr. Hall. He's deceased, and just
that's
paying our respects to their family too, because they're grieving and naturally they're going through a lot of turmoil too. But of course, I guess what we're looking for on this show is, and I think everyone would want it. I don't care which side you're on. You just want the truth.
I just want the accurate truth, right? What one thing, and I hate to, in fact, I'm not going to harp on it again, but you're right. That's all we're after here is a better picture of the truth. That's it. Never what do you get me up here to try and put a black eye on state police. Look, man, these guys got a tough job. Mm-hmm. Tough job. There's some excellent, wonderful individuals, more than I can ever imagine, actually. I enjoy working with them. That's not my point here. But I hold myself accountable. I hold everyone that I come across accountable. They get no pass from me either. That doesn't mean they're bad people, right? That's not what we're here to say. That's not what I'm saying. I've never said that. I never will. I'm simply here to compare and contrast Now, the findings of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office versus the findings of state police. We have a vast difference.
Let me go a little step further because I want to go to Houston a little bit because, you know, there and again, I mean, if you watch Facebook or you listen to social media, you're going to get 20 different reasons why Kyren Lacy took his life. And I'm going to go out on a limb because I figure you probably know the truth on this matter. Is there anything that you would like to set straight about the Houston part of this story?
I don't know that the Houston part of this story didn't upset me more than the front end. Let me just say this. Kyren Lacy went to Houston that Friday with his mind made. He was suffering. There was a point in time that night at his apartment, the apartment that he, his little brother, and his cousin were in. His mind was made. He wanted the keys to that vehicle to, I don't know how to say this, to
take his life.
Yeah. So it's either you give me my keys and I do this on my own accord, or this is going to go down right here, right now. Obviously, the keys were given. A welfare call was made. Keyword, welfare. Welfare check. Right? There was no crime. There's none of that, man. Mm-hmm. No drugs, none of that BS. Kid's mind was made. You know the rest of the story.
So he told whomever he was with that that was the place and time. Wasn't there a shot fired or something?
That's how he got his keys. I think that's how you're showing him. And by the way, the shot was fired in the ground on purpose to let them know the seriousness of what was going on in his head.
So he wanted their attention.
He wanted his keys.
Yeah.
And they knew not to give him his keys. They knew what was going to happen. But what are you going to do? You going to watch it go down, or are you going to give him his keys?
Right.
His mind was made. Social media killed him. Killed him. Mm-hmm. All those tough guys behind the computer,
yep.
Same ones that are come after me when I do this interview, mm-hmm. Those guys.
A young man could not get used to it.
They're kids, man. Yeah. The difference between you and I, Martin, and them, mm-hmm. They don't know anything else other than those devices.
Right.
You especially. I'm a little bit younger, but even myself, that's a later deal. Mm-hmm. That's all they know. They can't get away from them. Mm-hmm. And they believe what these people say. They believe them. Right. It doesn't matter what I showed you today. There are going to be people that are going to talk horribly about him, horribly about me. Life is such, but I have a job to do. Mm-hmm. No matter who is in the way of that. You have to do what you have to do. Whatever consequences come my way from this, so be it.
And I'm hearing you loud and clear. He, in his own mind, and I'm speculating, he was already prosecuted in his own mind.
That's correct. He's already prosecuted.
And we can only imagine, wasn't the Vikings about to draft him?
I had talked to the Saints. I had talked to the Vikings. Not that I'm his agent by any stretch, but there were teams reaching out to learn about this matter, that really liked him. But they obviously wanted to know what was going on. I did the best that I could to tell them and advise them the grand jury was set for this particular day. We didn't make it there, though. So Kyren Lacy is going to change the way things are done. He's going to make people think twice about what they say before they say it. Not everybody. Somebody. Mm-hmm. Maybe Kyren Lacy makes someone think twice before the next investigation to say, hold on, maybe we got to look at a few other things here, right? Maybe let's not jump to conclusions. Thoroughly review. just maybe, somebody else is saved from the same exact thing. Maybe thousands.
I do offer all other sides a chance to come. They can debate it or rebut or whatever.
To this day, formal charges were never accepted by the district attorney. This is over.
Over.
There's no
Done.
criminal proceeding.
Done.
This is about making a promise to a kid who begged you to help him. You make a promise, you follow through on that promise. It's nothing more, nothing less to tell the world Kyren Lacy's version. He never got to tell the world his version.
Okay.
We just did that.
Wow. Have you spoken to his family?
I did. I did. I met with him after obtaining everything, thoroughly going through it, watching videos, listening to statements. We've seen everything. And, you know, it just brings back a lot of memories. Same for Mr. Hall's family. I know it brings back some memories you guys don't want to recall. Same for the Lacy family. Because at the end of the day, you got two very important lives that were lost. Nothing's going to bring that back, either one of them. So I talked to him. It was, you can about imagine how it went. Very cordial, though. No yelling, no throwing, none of that. A lot of crying.
Right.
As I suspect Mr. Hall's family does the same thing, rightfully so, right? So it's just not fun for anybody, to be quite frank.
And that's the hardest part about doing an interview like this is you have so many people involved, and Kyren Lacy just happens to be such a high-profile person that I know the Halls grieving, and once again, if I had any regrets from the first interviews, that I didn't talk about Mr. Hall, and from what I heard, he was a tremendous man and just great storyteller, good person, but
Class act family.
It's just, it seems to be a tragedy all the way around.
It is.
When you really look at it.
It is. There's no winners here. There never will be. The class that Mr. Hall's family has exhibited has been tremendous. I know it's hard, but truly appreciated.
Yeah, and hopefully this can find some kind of space where truth is always the best aspect of people coming forward. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the state police too, because I've worked with them for 42 years, and they come every week to do news stories, and we always want to be careful on this news desk that we don't say something that sort of depicts the whole deal as being the whole state police or the whole district attorney's office or anything like that. We want to sort of categorize things.
There's no question, man. There's nothing easy about it. You and I talked about it, not that it had anything to do with this. We talked about Frank Bason earlier. What a stand-up class act, right?
Yep.
Christine Russell, stand-up class act. Family of Mr. Hall, stand-up class act. The Lacy family has been a stand-up class act. And Kyren Lacy, to me, was a stand-up class act. There's no winner here. We're all lost. But at least we have a little more accuracy. And at least the second side of the story is told.
When you were at his funeral, you got up and spoke,
I did.
and you looked at him, and you made a promise to him. Is this kind of what the promise you were talking about, finding out what took place?
Yeah. His parents had given me a pin of his picture. And at that funeral, I took it home with me, obviously, but as he's sitting there, he had always asked me previous to that, Mr. Matt, you got me, dog? Kyren, I promise you, I got you, dog. So I get home and I took that pin. It's got his picture on it, and I kept it out every day. And I wrote on the back of it, I got you, dog. Never let it leave that side. And this is my version, bringing clarity. Bringing his version is me telling him, I got you, dog. Whatever that's worth, I don't know. I hope that he's looking down and has a little peace, because he didn't go out with peace.
Matt, we appreciate you joining us today in tough circumstances, and thanks for coming in and sharing your thoughts and some of your findings with us.
Very welcome.
All right. Once again, we appreciate all of you joining us, and we always reach out to all aspects of this story. And of course, if you are on the Hall side of the story and you have a representative you would like to come on, or state police, or the district attorney's office, please give us a call, and we'll be glad to hear your side of the story and bring you on Bayou Time. We appreciate it. Once again, we appreciate Matt coming on and sharing what he has found out in his investigation of the matter. Thank you for joining us, and take care. This segment was brought to you by St. Martin and Bourke. Know your rights.